Welcome to this edition of Dear Peter. In today's show, which was taped in June of 1969, Peter speaks to Hope Franzese about the Vietnam War and the draft.
We're going to join the show already in progress. The audience in the studio watch the monitors, and at home, it's coming right up on your screen.
All of this started with Peter John's death, and we began talking about the wastefulness, of war and so forth. Some of you may be pacifists, some of you may not. Some of you may feel that what is happening in Vietnam is a necessary thing. Others may feel that it's not. All of these factors, I think, have to be thought out, spoken of among yourselves, so that you get a crystallization of your own ideas, your own thoughts about it. Now, assuming that all of you are agreed on one thing, like we all agree about motherhood and apple pie and that sort of thing, so that I am sure that you all agree that killing, in a purposeless manner should not be continued. So that leaves you with a whole set of alternatives. Number one, you may think in terms of supporting a system which would have, for example, a professional army, in which case you would be a group that was basically for a change in the draft laws and indeed for abolishing of the draft as soon as practical. On the other hand, you may feel that the draft in itself is not an evil. I think that before you come to a conclusion on either side, you should be fairly well informed about the kind of system that exists without a universal draft, and one which does. Now, say that you wanted to attack it from that point of view, right? Then it would be necessary for you as a group to inform yourselves as to what the conditions are in other countries as far as service in the military, is concerned. How it's determined who serves and under what circumstances, and the kind of military involvement that a government can make. It could be that this is not your basic concern. Your basic concern might be one of a purely informational nature. That is, there are so many groups about, all of whom have, kind of different notions about what to do about some of the problems that are plaguing us. There are very few central sources of information. You might want to function as a sort of information disseminating unit. By that I mean you might want to organize yourselves in such a way that you set up affiliation, contact with the various groups that are working in many areas. And then report from one group to another or to the public at large what is being done in certain areas. Now, this might be done in several areas. It might be that you'd concern yourselves politically. By that I mean you might want to concern yourselves in the area of what your representatives, your assemblymen, your congressmen, your state senators, your United States senators are doing, what kind of voting records they have, how they feel about things. You might want to so inform yourself that you could support certain candidates. There are so many areas, Peter. It's a very difficult thing for me just to, speak extemporaneously this way, because I really don't know those areas in which you have the most information, or those areas in which you have the most interest. what I had suggested was this. You had some speakers come out last week. On the basis of what you heard, you all have had a set of reactions, and presumably you've given what you've heard some thought. Unfortunately, I haven't heard the tapes yet, so I really don't know, what went on. But following that up, I thought perhaps if each of you would just set forth your own ideas, your own aims, on where you'd like to see a group go, in what area you would like to see it function. You then could take a consensus of opinion and set one goal for the entire group. I don't know of any other way to do it other than have each person speak. It's the democratic way basically is the way that works. I think that the big difficulty, of course, is that before you can ask questions, you've got to know what questions to ask. You've got to have some basic information, I think maybe you have, some basic information already. You might question what you've heard and see if you, out of this process, evolve something that you can hang on to. It may be that your group would be concerned with something other than the war itself. It may be that your group might be concerned with the problems of your immediate area, or the state, or by extension, the country. This is up to you. What is a fact is that you all can move this society. You really can. It does work. How do you want to move it? Or do you want to move it? So, now, what is there that I can tell you, Peter?
Well, if people wanted to know, what they're supposed to do in the organization. The purpose.
Well, now, set up a premise for me, Peter. Say that you have an aim. What would your aim be? Just pick one out of the year. What do you think that the one unifying thing is for all of you?
I don't know. It might be get rid of the draft.
The draft. Okay. Do you want to be in a position to let other young people know that draft counseling is available? Do you want to be an information source as to which areas would be the most vital to put pressure on?
In other words, what you mean is first we have to get the thing that we want to do before we tell them what we're going to do, right?
Everything else is, it's academic up to that point, honey.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't until you know what you want to do, right? That you remember this afternoon when you called me originally, and I asked you to call me back tonight.
Yeah.
And I told you, I couldn't talk to you because somebody was in jail, and I had to see what I could do about getting her out.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so it was a specific problem, right? This is really, boiling it down some. But it was a specific problem. Somebody had run into a spot of trouble and had gotten arrested, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the aim was to get her out. So you proceed logically, right? First, you have to find out from what precinct she was arrested. Secondly, you have to find out where she is being held. Thirdly, you have to find out whether any counsel was made available. Fourth, when you find out that no counsel has been made available, you have to get counsel. So, everything, once you know what you want to do, everything will kind of fall in, 1, 2, 3, in back of it.
Did you get her out?
Yes. Well, she will be. She's got to, tonight she'll be at night court. And, but, that's neither here nor there, But what I was illustrating, Peter, was the fact that, okay, here was a specific aim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a phone call came in, and I had to call a precinct, and I had to run someplace, and I got a lawyer, and, fine, okay, But you kids are in the same position. I don't know what to tell you because I don't know which way you're heading.
Mhm.
You know?
Uh-huh.
And from what you say, you don't know which way you're heading.
That's true.
So I think maybe that's the first thing, don't you? To kind of crystallize, what do you all want to do? I mean, if you want to have a gorgeous summer running around to rallies, okay?
Yeah.
And running around to demonstrations and hollering and singing and learning a few protest songs, you can have a great summer. You might do some incidental peripheral good if you pick the right demonstrations and the right rallies. You might do no good at all, but you might just have a ball. I mean, you know, I know how cynical that sounds, you know, but it could be that that's all that would come out of it. On the other hand, you might really, you know, feel that, well, it bothers you that kids of your own age in your own neighborhood, right, are being drafted when other kids the same age, right, and so forth, in another neighborhood are not. And you might want to do something about that. In which case it would mean you could set up a speakers bureau. You could go to the groups that exist in your area, you know, in the Greenpoint, Williamsburg area. Tell them that there's draft counseling available. You could leaflet. You could get information from the various groups. There are all sorts of informational sources that you could pass out to the public at large. You know, that sort of thing, Peter. But see, it's very difficult for me. At this point, Pete, I just don't know what to tell you.
Uh-huh.
You know, so be a help. Tell me what, you know.
If I knew what it was, but I have to ask you. No, you see, the whole thing was that, you know, the people wanted to ask you stuff. So I had to figure, you know, if, like, they heard you, and they know you're still interested in us, you know, and everything like that.
You know, Peter, I believe in you kids. I really do. But I don't want
So this is one of the questions, the one that about what it was supposed to do. It's one that Jimmy had just told me that they wanted to know.
Well, sweetheart, I don't want to impose my own thinking on anybody, you know? Because to arrive at whatever point I've gotten to, you know, in my own thinking processes, and I may be very wrong, very right, who knows, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But to arrive at the point that I have, I've gone through a kind of apprenticeship, right?
Yeah.
And whereas it may be just great for me, you know, from my position, it may be, you know, like all wrong for you. And I'd just as soon not have, you know, like, how can I say this, have any role other than a source of answers to specific questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as you kids know that whatever answers that you're going to get from me, you'll get straight answers. You won't get any con. I think you know that, Pete.
Yeah, we know that.
You know, and but I hate to pose the questions and the answers, Peter, because then that's, you know, it's my own individual personal bias, and that's no good, Pete.
You see, we got a pile of questions, so you don't have to give us any more. You just have to give us a few answers.
Okay, well, now the first answer to the question of what to do is, first of all, honey, find out what one thing you all agree you want to do, okay?
Yeah.
And it's got to be as specific, okay?
Yeah.
Then, after you know precisely what it is you want to do, then you can implement that decision. But until that point, Peter, you know, I mean, it's like we're kind of talking in circles, baby.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just don't know what to tell you, honey. You know, I know, you know, it would be so easy for me, P, to say to you kids, like, I think this guy or the other guy, you know, now I'm speaking in terms of politics, right?
Yeah.
I think this guy or that guy is acting in a way that is, you know, like the best interests of our nation. And how about you kids going out and, supporting him? How about you kids getting to the people? But, Pete, this would only be, it would be my personal opinion, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good enough, Peter, because you've got to believe in something yourselves. Because don't forget, you kids are going to be putting it on the line. And you can't put it on the line because somebody's rattle-brained aunt thinks it's a good idea. You've got to do it from personal conviction, your own sense of purpose, your own ideal, your own sense of ethic or morality or what have you. Because otherwise you're going to buckle, and you're no damn good to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that you're going to have to put it on the line, I mean, I cannot stress, Peter, too much the fact that this is precisely what will happen. You will be attacked on all sides from all different groups. And this, like whether it be from family, parents, friends, people in the neighborhood, people in different groups that have conflicting ideas. Just look at what went on in Chicago this past week at that SDS convention. Look at the unholy mess that thing degenerated into, where people who were radicals in that case, who should have been able on that point at least, in a shared interest in radicalism, been able to get together. They split wide apart. And the only disciplined group that was in Chicago, which was the group that supports and is trained by the Socialist Labor Party, ended up sort of in control, But that was because it was a disciplined group of people. Well, why were they disciplined? Well, they all shared a joint, a single idea. Whereas within the ranks of SDS, you have everything from the radical to the anarchist, and without a unifying discipline, everything falls apart. So it's got to be your own idea. It's got to be your own dream. It sounds so damn corny, Pete. I know how ridiculous it sounds, to use that very trite word, dream. But you've got to have a dream of the way you'd like it to be, the way you'd like one thing to be, And then you fight for that one thing. And if you accomplish it, great, you can go on to the next one. But it's got to be real to you. Not to me, not to your Aunt Hattie, not to anybody else.
Yeah, should we get more than one purpose or just one?
I think if you could work on one thing, just so that you can see what it's like to work as a unit, Peter.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I don't think some of you kids may have, I don't know, whether any of you have been involved in any group movement,
Yeah.
Some of you may be aware of how it's done. Others may not. But I think that, like, that's part of your kind of your bad fire. Get your one idea and then go out for that. I think maybe the simplest thing, the thing that everybody could relate to, is in the area of draft counseling. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I figure, I guess. I don't know. There would be one area,
And you'd find in just doing that one thing, in getting out to where the young people are, in getting out in the public places, in leafleting, in setting up information centers as to where to go, in helping people get to where they should go.
We could just evolve around that one thing, huh?
Oh, Peter, and you can get your brains knocked in on that one thing. You can't judge by the kind of leafleting you did.
No, I mean, we could just evolve around draft counseling, right?
Oh, you certainly could.
We don't have to go like draft counseling, this thing and that thing and another thing, right?
But you wouldn't do it yourself. You could be sending them to, like the attorneys, where you went, Pete, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you could be getting literature, and you could, like this is a big field, but don't think for one moment that you won't be opposed in this, Pete.
Oh, I already got that figured out.
Because you kids will be insulted. People will try to pick fights with you. People will slug you.
Well, I ain't got no pacifists under my gang, so...
Well,
if they
I'm
want
no
to fight, there's going to be some hell of a war.
Somebody goes to slug me, and I'm perfectly willing to take off the shoe and hit him over the head with the heel, like in the eye, preferably. But,
And we're for peace now, mind you.
We're for peace, boy. You better be peaceful or I'll kill you. That kind
The way I figure.
Well, no, I don't know if you say, baby, you really don't believe that at all. Not really.
No, I'm just saying, it's ironical, though, ain't it?
Of course it is.
You're hollering peace, peace, peace. Meanwhile, if the guy takes a slug at you, it'll be his last day of breathing.
Well, I don't know. Are you hollering peace when you're talking draft counseling as much as you're hollering know your rights? As much as you're hollering don't be a victim? Be a functioning member of the society? When you do join the military or you have a part of the military, why have it in the position of the victim, who's led blindly to the slaughter? I believe that there are times where you have to enter the military. You have to serve your country,
Yeah.
But again, as I say, you see, now here I'm imposing my opinions. I'm no pacifist. I believe that there are wars that have to be fought,
Yeah, my people figure the same way.
And I think there are times where if you're not willing to get out there, and fight it, well, hell, I'll blow you up myself, But I'm just, I'm not hung up on this Vietnamese thing. But aside from the Vietnamese thing, the thing that is appalling about it is that, let's go back to Peter John, for example, because I think that he represents an awful lot of kids, you see. Here's a kid who did not know that he had any rights in this society, because certainly it's not in the interest of the establishment to train him, to teach him. They need cannon fodder, They need the people that will go out and learn how to be computer technicians, And so it is in the interest of the establishment to kind of send you through an educational process which educates you only in those areas and only sufficiently, so that you can function in the role assigned to X millions of people, right? In order that, the establishment can continue. So when we speak of draft counseling, we're not speaking of draft dodging. They're two different things entirely, In draft counseling, what we're saying to someone is, these are the laws that are on the books. This is how they apply to you. If you remember the attorney that we spoke to that time, where he said that so many more, it was a huge, I don't remember the figure, but it was a disproportionate number. If I remember, he said something like 80%, of the kids who are eligible for draft in certain areas are drafted, as against, 20% in other areas. Well, why?
Of course, the other kids ain't got the angles.
Of course, they just don't know, So, so that you kids would not, but you will be accused of fostering draft dodging, you see. So that your job, say that you went into this whole draft counseling thing, you would have to educate the public as well as the kids of draft age. You'd have to be able to say to the public, look, this is the story,
Yeah, but when you talk to the public, sometimes you need more than words.
Well, Pete, I think it's always a big shock, enough so that it immobilizes somebody for a few moments when they realize that they're being victimized. And it's very easy to show them how they are being victimized. When you've got the figures on how many kids from one area go in as against how many kids from another area. You know. And they will, like, no matter how resentful they are, they're going to say to you, hey, why? You know, how come? And at that point, you know, it's up to you to tell them how come. And so that your job, say that you did take on the draft counseling thing, is to educate, like, you know, in all segments. It's just not in one. I don't know if that'll be your thing or not, you know. But what I guess I am saying is that it's a lot bigger than it just, you know, seems on the on the surface. So, you know, what can I tell you, babe? You know.
You did all right.
I did all right, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Peter, there is, oh boy, you know how easy it is to fall into a kind of maudlin mess at certain times. But, you know, you live X number of years, right? You know, and time seems kind of endless to you. You know, you feel like, oh boy, I've got all the time in the world, right? And then you hit a certain point and you suddenly, for the first time, realize that time is going very, very quickly. And you look around and you see all the things that have to be done, you know. And you see the one or two little things that you were able to make a dent in, right? And you think, oh my, it is so important, it is so vital that the next bunch, you know, they make a dent too. I mean, you know, this is what brought us out of the caves. It's you know, it's what propelled Columbus and his gang of convicts into that Atlantic, you know, beyond the Canaries. It's what keeps us moving, and I believe, I really believe in the power of the individual person. And you kids have like 20 years more than me to fight, right? And after you, there are others that are going to have like 20 years more than you. So whatever it is that you decide is your thing, you know, just as long as you really believe it, and you know, like willing to like stand up and be counted and commit yourselves to it, you know. Well, this is what's important, you know, because you can do it. You really can do it, Pete. There's no question of it. You know, when I was your age and we were fighting for unions, right? Mm-hmm. If someone had told me the day would come in my lifetime that I would look at nice fat cat unions and realize that they had better be investigated because they had grown, you know, too big and too corrupt, I would have, you know, like laughed in his face and spit in his eye. Because it seemed while that fight was going on as if we'd never get anybody unionized, right? And here we've got the whole country unionized. So, I mean, it's going to be like that for you in your thing, right?
Yeah.
And all you've got to do is believe in it, and you can do it, you know. How do you like that? Have Jimmy cut that whole last maudlin thing out of the tape. You do that or make sure that you're all like stoned when you hear it. Because if not, I'll never walk down a street in Greenpoint. You know, they'll come out of doorways with rocks and clubs and beat me. Thanks a lot, Charlie. You know, like, what are you selling this year? Cancer?
We ain't that primitive.
So you're going to have a meeting too. I wish I could come. It's too bad that all hell is broken loose over here, you know, Pete. I wish that you kids could get out here, you know. Anything. I'd love it, but under the circumstances. So.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else I can tell you?
No, I guess not.
Well, good luck, babe.
Okay.
You know.
We'll let you know if we need any more.
Honey, you can have money up to a certain amount, right?
Oh, we don't take anything less than 100,000, you know.
Thanks a lot. and you can have time, and you can have contacts, and you can have, like, names of good bail bondsmen, and you can have everything. And just
we want a few mouthpieces, that's about all.
and knock them dead, Let me know how it works out, will you, Pete?
Okay, we'll let you know.
All right, darling.
Okay.
Good night, baby.
Good night.
Thanks for calling.
Okay.
Good night,
Bye.
honey.
Thank you.
Ah.
Bye.